ओम आनंदमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरविंदाय नमः। ओम नमो भगवते श्री अरविंदाय नमः। With the grace of Sri Aurobindo and Sri Ma, we are starting our today's webinar online talk on Sri Aurobindo philosophy. We have a distinguished speaker from Guwahati, Sri Indrajit Goswami, who is the prominent, notable writer and speaker. Today he is with us. So we are starting our session, and before starting the session, I'd like to request Professor Parthankar Chaudhary sir to initiate or address the audience today. Parthankar sir, please. Parthankar sir.
Yes. Good evening. I think I am audible to all.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes.
Sir, good evening.
Yeah, you are audible.
Thank you, Dr. Manavendra Datta Chaudhary and Dr. Pradipta Das, because we discussed in an informal way that we will organize a series of this sort of talk so that this motivates the young mind and spirit, especially during these trying times. This is the first in the series of lectures to be organized or to be taken up under the banner of Excellence Club. We have in our mind to invite other distinguished speakers from different fields, like on the life and philosophy of Lord Ramakrishna. Some other speakers will talk, and on the philosophy of Vivekananda, there are speakers with whom we are contacting, and similarly on Sri Chaitanya also there, series of talks will be organized. This way, we want to be among the masses, so that whatever this trying time has caused some sort of mental sort of monotony, or a sort of depression, whatever we say. So to come out of this sort of depression, or to come out this sort of monotony, we are organizing this sort of lectures. Dr. Pradipta Das has already said you, and I believe that we will be greatly enlightened by the speech of Sri Indrajit Goswami on Aurobindo philosophy, who I believe is a great speaker, and will be highly enlightened with his speech. Speaking about the Excellence Club. এক্সেলেন্স শব্দটার যদি ঠিক বাংলা অর্থ করি, তাহলে যে শব্দটা দাঁড়ায় সেটা হচ্ছে শ্রেষ্ঠত্ব। তো উই আন্ডার দ্য ব্যানার অফ এক্সেলেন্স ক্লাব, আমরা নিজেদেরকে শ্রেষ্ঠ বলে দাবি করতে পারি না, বরং বলতে পারি শ্রেষ্ঠত্ব লাভের যেটা সোপান, সেই পথ দিয়ে এগিয়ে যাওয়ার অঙ্গীকার আমাদের সবারই মনে আছে, এবং সেটাকে মাথায় রেখে, কিপিং দ্যাট ইন দ্য ব্যাক অফ আওয়ার মাইন্ড, উই আর প্রোগ্রেসিং in our journey. আমাদের চলার পথে maybe there may be errors, there may be mistakes. So I request all of you that to show us the correct path, যে এটা এইভাবে না করে ওইভাবে করো, so that we may get rectified with your wise suggestions. যে অরবিন্দ ফিলোসফি নিয়ে কথা বলবেন, সেই জিনিসটা সান্নিধ্যে একটু কম বেশি আমি এসেছি অধ্যাপক মানবেন্দ্র দত্ত চৌধুরীর সঙ্গে কথা বলে। উনি প্রায় সময়ই এই সমস্ত জিনিস নিয়ে লেখালেখি করেন বা কথাবার্তা বলেন। আমি তো পন্ডিচেরি আশ্রমে গেছিলাম, সেখানে থেকে আমি সাবিত্রী বইখানা কিনেও এনেছি, এবং আরও 4-5টা বই কিনেছি, এবং পর্ব বলে বুক সেলফে রেখে দিয়েছি, এখন পর্যন্ত পড়া হয়নি। সামান্য একটু একটু দু চার পাতা উল্টে যতটুকু আমি which I could gather is that 1916 সালের যেটা অরিজিনাল যেটা লিখেছিলেন শ্রী অরবিন্দ, যেটাকে 1930 সালে যেটাকে মডিফাই করা হয়েছে ইন্টু একটা এপিক নভেল হিসাবে, সেখানে বেশ কয়েকটা চরিত্র রয়েছে, যেখানে সাবিত্রী রয়েছে, দ্য ডিভাইন ওয়ার্ল্ড সূর্যকন্যা হিসাবে যাকে রিপ্রেজেন্ট করা হয়েছে, যাকে সুপ্রিম ট্রুথ বলা হয়, অ্যান্ড হু কামস ডাউন অ্যান্ড ইজ বর্ন টু সেভ অল অফ আস। এটা হচ্ছে একটা চরিত্র। আরেকটা হচ্ছে গিয়ে অষ্টপতি, যেটাকে বলা হয় দ্য লর্ড অফ অল দ্য হর্স, আর হিউম্যান ফাদার in the Lord of is the Lord of Tapusya and the concentrated energy of spiritual endeavor that helps to rise from all the mortal to the immortal plane. আর যেটা আরেকটা যিনি চরিত্র সেনা বলে দ্য লর্ড অফ শাইনিং হর্স, সত্যবানের বাবা যিনি, দ্য ডিভাইন মাইন্ড। তো এই অল দিস ক্যারেক্টার্স আর জাস্ট নট পার্সনিফাইড কোয়ালিটিস but incarnations of living and conscious force which are acting and interacting and reacting within us. আমার যে সামান্য জ্ঞান, আমি এই সামান্য একটুকু পড়েছি এবং আশা রাখছি যে সময় যখন পাবো, বইখানা সত্যিই কঠিন, চেষ্টা করি নাই যে তা না, কিন্তু একটা জিনিস বুঝেছি যে বইখানা পড়তে গেলে অনেকখানি সময় দিতে হয়, এবং সেই সময়টুকু হয়তো বা আমি আগামী দিনগুলোতে আমি সময়টুকু বের করে নিতে পারবো বলে আমি বিশ্বাস করি। আমার বক্তব্য আমি আর দীর্ঘায়িত করছি না। উই অল আর ইগারলি ওয়েটিং টু লিসেন টু দ্য এনলাইটেড স্পিচ of Sri Indrajit Goswami. I request Sri Indrajit Goswami to begin his deliberation, and I request all other participants uh, to give their comments or queries, if any, in the chat box. So Dr. Pradipta Das is anchoring, and he will read out the chat box at the end of his deliberations, and Sri Goswami will answer all those queries. So without wasting further time, I request Sri Goswami to start his deliberation. Thank you.
Just one interruption, Professor Parthankar Choudhury.
Yes.
Before that, I think we need to introduce the speaker. So Pradipto may introduce the speaker to the participants. And again, Pradipto, I am seeing Nirmalda is attending this program. So can we request him to speak a few words?
Yes, sure.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Hello, Pradipto, Nirmalda is available. So can we request him to speak a few words?
Nirmalda, can you, I would like to request you to say a few words on this occasion. Please.
Hello?
Nirmalda?
He's not audible, but he is present. Anyway, Pradipto, you can introduce Sri Indrajit Goswami, and he will speak, and after that, if Nirmalda is available, then he may speak for 2-3 minutes.
His my audio is off. If he can put on his audio, I think he will be audible.
Yeah, Pradipto, can you put audio of Nirmalda on?
I am trying, sir, but I think Nirmalda.
But he will have to do. He will have to do.
Nirmalda, in your screen, please unmute the microphone.
Yeah. This is all right, Pradipto. What we can do is just introduce the speaker, and after the speech is over, we may request Nirmalda to speak a few words.
Okay. So before we start our today's session, let me introduce our speaker, Sri Indrajit Goswami, who is from Guwahati, Assam, and who was working in Indian Oil Corporation till 2012. After the voluntary retirement from Indian Oil Corporation, he joined as a devotee in Aurobindo Society. Since 2002, he was associated with Sri Aurobindo Society, Guwahati Center. Initial years he was the joint secretary in Guwahati Center, and later in 2009 he became the secretary of the Guwahati Center of Sri Aurobindo Society. Under the tenure of Sri Indrajit Goswami, a relics of Sri Aurobindo is established in the Guwahati Center, which is in Panjawadi, near Shankardev Kalakshetra. And he made during his tenure another good thing happened in Guwahati Center, which is Mother's Paduka is also installed in 2018, and Sri Indrajit Goswami, actually he is a prominent writer. He has translated 25 books from English to Assamese and one book from Bengali to Assamese. So that is the great contribution towards the Sri Aurobindo Society and activities of the Sri Aurobindo Society. So I would like to welcome our speaker, Sri Indrajit Goswami sir, who is sitting in Guwahati. Today he will give the talk on Sri Aurobindo philosophy. So I would like to request Sri Indrajit Goswami sir to start the session.
Jai Ma. I thank all of you wholeheartedly before this session, and I'm indebted to my friend Sri Manavendra Datta Chaudhary, who has requested me to join this session. In fact, frankly speaking, I am not a public speaker as such, as you all know. But I'm very much happy when it comes to talking about the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And if it helps someone to get even a little bit of inspiration to come a little closer to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, so I think that's worth it. And in fact, who can speak about Sri Aurobindo and the Mother? Because we all know that they are as vast as the universe and beyond it actually. In fact, they are from the transcendental sphere. In fact, we will be understanding a little bit today. We will try to understand, in fact, with whatever understanding I have, I'd like to share with you all. So, today's topic being Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. In fact, Sri Aurobindo's philosophy revolves around the concept of evolution. Now, the thing is that when we talk about evolution, straight away it comes to our mind that it is the evolution which Darwin speaks of. But according to Sri Aurobindo, his view is totally different from the naturalistic view of the Western concept of evolution, which believes only in biological evolution. It deals only with the physical aspect. And when Sri Aurobindo says that for evolution to take place, there must be something preceding it, preceding the evolution. That is, there has to be something which has to evolve itself before evolving itself, actually. So that is the basic premise you'll have to remember about it. And that's why Sri Aurobindo takes the Vedantic point of view, the Indian school of thought, which says that the higher, that is the spirit, is involved in lower, that is in matter. So we can understand it better when we come to know about the triple poise of Satchidananda, that is the unmanifested world of the divine. So this Satchidananda, probably some of you have come across this term, Satchidananda. Sat, that is existence, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda, that is bliss. These are the triune poise of the eternal divine, unmanifested in the transcendental sphere. Transcendent because that is beyond the manifested world. So that is the spirit which is in its upper topmost hemisphere, the upper crust. And this spirit is involved in the lower, that is mind, life, and finally matter. So we see that the divine, the spirit, is involved. First, it involutes itself right down to matter from its highest sphere, that is Satchidananda, but of course through its own creative medium, which is called the supermind. The term here used is supermind, which is coined by Sri Aurobindo. And this supermind consists, in fact, these three, Satchitananda, that is existence, consciousness, and bliss, these three, together with supermind, forms the upper hemisphere or the Paraprakriti. And the lower one, that is mind, life, and matter, that is the lower hemisphere, or which is called the upper Prakriti. So we see that the spirit or the divine extends himself through the medium of him, that is supermind, right down to matter. So that is the first phase, which is called the involution. And in its return journey, that is, because of this involution of spirit into matter, out of matter is born first the life, and out of life, in the course of the journey, in the course of evolution, comes mind. And this way, it goes up, ascends, and the final goal is the Satchidananda again. Now this is the return journey. That is from matter to life, life to mind. This is the return journey, which is actually the evolution. So it becomes quite clear that there has to be two ways. First is involution, then only out of involution the evolution takes place. And now this whole process of evolution is conducted or is taken care of by nature. Nature we all know. And this nature is nothing but the executive aspect. Aurobindo says that it is the executive aspect of the divine. And here we would do well to understand that this process of evolution of nature, in fact, it is nothing but the yoga of the nature. As it is, the divine himself is doing yoga for the creation, for the world. But basically what happens, this pace, the pace of this evolution is somewhat slow and sluggish. So it took eons for life to come from matter, from out of life to come mind. It's a long, long journey. That is why it is a very, very arduous task. It's a long journey. And if for perfection of human being through this process to attain divinity, it will take maybe more than, as Aurobindo says, it will take about 3,000 years for a man to attain his supreme divinity, that is perfection in all spheres of life, with the fuller circle, that is full evolution of his being. In other words, to establish divinity fully in himself. So that comes to, see, if we take an average human being's longevity to be 100 years, then it would be 300 births for a human being to achieve this divinity. So you can understand well how slow the pace is of evolution in nature. Now at this critical juncture, there emerges a possibility. Of course, this possibility is nothing but the boon which is being allowed by the divine himself. This possibility of ascent to the next level of higher consciousness. We all know about the avatars advent on earth in different times in annals of history. Why they come? Because the humanity at large, which toils in different times, different situations, under different circumstances, at one point of time, to evolve out of this present consciousness which was going on during that time, an avatar comes down. Avatar is nothing but a special power of the divine himself. In fact, not only avatars, there comes vibhutis also, as we all know, and some other powers. And all these powers, actually, they were coming till recently from the sphere of overmind. Overmind, in fact, I would like to discuss here about a little bit only to give an idea that there are so many gradations of mind itself. when we discussed about mind, this matter, life and mind, uh, to add a little bit only about the mind, there are gradations of mind, starting right from the lower ones, that is ordinary mind. Then the next one is higher mind. Then above that, illumined mind. Then intuitive mind. And then above that, the overmind. Now, see, in this overmental realm, overmental world, this is the station of all gods and goddesses, of whom generally people pray, people do all their oblations and offering, pujas and all. In fact, they are the ones, along with other powers of the Supreme Divinity itself, who conducts the whole activities of the cosmos, the whole creation. Now, the point is, till then, till the advent of Sri Aurobindo, our earth was under the rule of the cosmos, that is, from those gods and goddesses, directly or indirectly, through their powers, to operate. And it was going on like that. But there comes a time when the earth consciousness has to ascend to its next level, next higher level. And those are the junctures when avatars come. And till then, all these avatars and devotees were coming, now you can understand, they were coming from those realms, from overmind or those powers under it, that is down below from overmind, those realms. But at this special emergence or the possibility, it became necessary for some higher powers to come down and change altogether the consciousness of earth. And this is the possibility of which Sri Aurobindo was speaking. This is the juncture when it necessitated his advent actually. So we know very well now that Sri Aurobindo is not someone who is a spiritual guru, who is a yogi or some higher entity. He is from that transcendental sphere. In fact, he is from that sphere. In fact, he is from the supermind, that region, because it is only the supramental powers descending upon earth can change the life that is toiling now, because it is in an evolutionary crisis. That is why Sri Aurobindo had to come down, taking a physical body, as well as the mother of whom we are a little bit aware only as a spiritual collaborator of Sri Aurobindo, originating from France. But in actual fact, she is that which is nothing but the supermind itself translated into an entity. That is, in fact, she is in all these three domains, that is, the transcendent, that is Vishati, we say, transcendent, beyond manifestation. Then, in the manifestation, that is the creation in the universe, she contains the universe in herself, develops it, and runs it with her own powers and personalities. So, what we understand that she is the Divine Mother herself, and all these gods and goddesses are only powers emanating out of her. It is so difficult to perceive for a layman that she could be the Divine Mother. But she is not actually this body. She has come down especially for this task of transforming this human life to the divine. And for this task, both Sri Aurobindo and the Mother had to come down here and precipitate the pace of evolution of which we were talking earlier. Now we could probably understand the magnitude of it. That which would have taken 3,000 years or 300 births probably for a man to become fully divinized, this process can be precipitated now with their coming down, and they have laid down a path, a beautiful path for the humanity, of course, for those who wish to tread the sunlit path, that is, coming out of the groove in which we always move, our petty pursuit, fulfilling our personal desires, fulfilling our ambitions and all. Coming out of this groove, whoever is aspiring to become the instrument of the divine and let the instrument become divinized through their working. So it is for them to tread the path, this path which they have laid down. And this path is the integral path, the integral yoga. And how it is different from other yogas. Now, even before that, we can discuss a little about yoga. What is yoga actually? Nowadays, it is talked about very loosely. I am doing yoga. He has opened a school of yoga, and so and so. In fact, yoga is the process of union with the divine. And what people generally understand yoga to be is only the asanas. It is a very minuscule part of the whole system of yoga. Whatever it is. Now the point is that the past yogas, their approaches were confined or limited to a particular aspect only of divinity. Or they were trying to perfect the human being. in different aspects. Take for instance mind. Raja Yoga is done for perfecting the mind through different procedures to control the mind, to use it to its utmost potentiality. Bhakti Yoga, as you know, it's a path which leads to the divine through bhakti. But of course, we'll have to remember that this also, to some extent, negates the life, somewhat a negation of life, leaving aside the karma side, we may say. Through bhakti only, people want to unite with the divine. So you will see basically all these are somewhat one directional, unidirectional. If you talk about Hatha Yoga, the system tries to perfect the physicality, the physical organ through some rigorous processes. It can give impetus to its full potentiality. But again, all these paths, they are taking a unidirectional mode. The integrality is not there. And moreover, when we talk about the problems of life, of the humanity at large, days in and days out, we toil around on earth without knowing why. Whether we talk about the mental side, whether we talk about our emotional side, psychological side, and even about the body also. The circumstances we have to engage ourselves with. In all these spheres, we face problems, difficulties, we face the problem of illness, and finally, we surrender to the ultimate darkness, that is death, without knowing even what was the mission we were entrusted with. What is our meaning of existence? The raison d'être. In French, it is called raison d'être. It is what is the meaning of our existence? All these problems basically surge up from a domain of which till the coming of Sri Aurobindo was not known. And this domain is called the inconscient. Inconscient. It is the most darkest of all things. When we talk about consciousness, we should also know that our conscious being starts from our feet to our head. That is, we are aware, we are conscient. And below the feet, there is a realm called subconscious. And even below it, that is the farthest of all, the last domain, that is inconscient, where lies the root of all our problems. And because that domain was unknown till recently, we couldn't find the solution also. Sri Aurobindo was ordained, mind the word ordained, because it is somewhat, he was kind of deputed from the Supreme Divinity only. He has come out from living his supreme felicity in the transcendental sphere, right down into our living earth. And because of his coming, he has gone down to the roots of our problems, that is the inconscience, from which the darker forces surge up to the next level, which is called the subconscious. And from the subconscious, it comes out to the surface consciousness of what we are, what we know ourselves to be. So till then, nobody knew about it, why the problems are always there. It was taken for granted that this life, this earthly life, this earth is a place where there cannot be permanent good, permanent peace, permanent ananda. Other parts of yoga earlier, or any spiritual path, they were of the view, in fact most of them, right from Shankaracharya, who believed in monism, and to add Buddha also. What they did, they wanted to leave the world as soon as possible. Their view is that you cannot be happy here in this earth. So it is better always to leave this as soon as possible and merge either with the divinity above or to the state which is called nirvana. Sri Aurobindo doesn't subscribe to that view. In fact, that is why I said he is ordained for it. He is destined to take the whole of humanity into his shoulders and tread the most difficult, dolorous path to go down to the pit of the problems, pit of the inconscience. And because he went down to that with his supreme life and study, slowly the things are changing. Of course, apparently it seems that the problems are becoming much difficult, much strenuous. Our life is becoming more problematic. Yes, definitely it should be, because he has started everything. All that dark stuff lying there, always, of which nobody knew or nobody cared about, no. So he has gone down there and walked out there, and from that level, slowly now rising up to take through this path which he has laid down for us, the integral path, that is our outer nature consisting of mind, life, and body, mind, vital and body. So all these three domains to undergo this transformation. That is why it is totally difficult from the past yogas, which believed in escaping from this world. Aurobindo says that it is not for me to leave this world. The divine has to be established in this life itself, on earth itself. I can leave this world and unite myself with my source, the origin, that is divinity. But what about the humanity toiling beneath? All over the world, on earth, each one of us is toiling, and there seems to be no solution at all, no permanent solution at all. He says, no, I am not for moksha. If moksha is attainable, it is not for me. It is for this task, for the whole of humanity to slowly push upward. Of course, it will not be in one go. First, there will be created a race before finally reaching that state which we call the supermanhood, and this race is called the Superman. So this race has to be created among us, the aspirants, and for this he lays down the path of integral yoga, which entails triple lever of aspiration, rejection, and surrender of our being. An aspiration, always vigilant, constant, unceasing. The mind's will, the heart seeking, the ascent of the vital being, the will to open and make plastic the physical consciousness within. That means in all levels, aspirations. Then comes the next one, that is rejection. Rejection of the movements of the lower nature, of which we are a part. Rejection of the mind's ideas, opinions, constructions. Then comes preferences, habits. Then constructions. All these. Then in the vital domain, desires, demands, cravings, sensations, passions, all these are there. All these have to be rejected. And finally, the act of surrender. Surrender of whatever we are, whatever we have, all these. So this is the first premise, that is the three-pronged process, that is aspiration, rejection, and surrender. Now, it might seem to all that it is a very, very difficult task, which calls for undergoing a radical change of our nature. Is it possible? The first question which crops up in our mind, is it possible for us? Because it is something like trying to straighten up the tail of a dog, we know very well what it is. It comes back to its previous position always. That is changing our nature. It is very difficult. But here lies the crux. The divine, when it initiates the process, whatever it does, it takes everything into its stride. And because we are children of the divine, we are in fact sons of divine, and it is our birthright in fact to get the divinity, however long or arduous it may seem to be. So, what the divine does, she puts before us the Divine Mother herself, who is all, the Divine Mother who is the source of all. In fact, the divine, which has two sides, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha, as you know, is always like a witness. It stands back and watches everything. And Prakriti, what she does, she executes Purusha's plan of manifesting the consciousness in its full spectrum. So now think, just for a split moment, the Divine Mother who contains the whole universe, whole creation, and directs with 1,000 forces and runs. She has come down and is doing the yoga for us. And we do not have to bother about doing it actually. Of course, the effort should be there, of which Aurobindo has spoken here, of triple labor of aspiration, rejection, and surrender. But basically, she being there, the Divine Mother, and let me here add that it is not the physical body only that some of us seem to believe the Divine Mother to be. The Divine Mother is a consciousness spanning over all these three spheres, that is transcendent, universal, and individual. So she being there, what else do we need? We only have to engage her. We'll have to invoke her in our life, in our day-to-day activities, even if it be a very, very trivial one. Whatever we do, that is the only way through which we can come across closer to her, and she can take our whole outer personality of mind, life, and matter and remold and reshape and makes up that stuff which is divine only, and leave everything aside. So what we have to do now in our daily life, slowly, gradually, we have to invoke her not only as someone very far from us. She is very much here, not only around, within us also, with her divine portion, which is the psychic being. I know that some of you might not be able to perceive what is a psychic being. Psychic being is that which is formed around the soul. I'm sure we all know about the soul, at least heard of it in different spiritual treatises. The soul is a portion of the Divine Mother herself, which is always present deep within us, not of course physically, subtly deeper, deep in the solar plexus brain. And with successive births, what happens out of our different experiences, a little bit of divinity will well. That is kind of preserved around that soul, very slowly, birth after birth, and that takes a concrete shape, and that becomes an entity which is called the psychic being. And this is the evolutionary part of the soul, which remains always. All other things, our mind will go to its own place when we leave our body, our vital, our emotional likes, dislikes, and all those. In fact, all these are nothing but can be called extra luggages, unwanted luggages we carry with us. And these, she is so loving, so caring, and so close yet that it is difficult for us to understand, initially at least, perceive. Aurobindo says that even if the mother is in front of you, you won't be able to perceive her. You won't be able to feel her. Because there are so many veils in front of us. These veils we have laid ourselves to create. Laid all those forces, adverse forces, to play with our being till now. But in the evolutionary journey, the time has come, what can be called in Aurobindo's language, the hour of God. The hour of God. When slowly that small portion, which is called the soul or the psyche, it takes charge. It takes charge of what? Our outer mind, our vital, consisting of all those luggages we talked about, and finally also the physical body, which is a perishable stuff. So everything has been in place for us. And it is only for us to seek the help, try to know why we are here on earth, I understand all of us for that matter, feel the same problems, of course in a different manner, in a different hue. But it is all the same day, since time immemorial problem. And death also is a question to us, to life. Have you found out? Have you found out that which will be there permanently? In fact, it is the quest, the inner quest of each of us. From eons probably, from centuries, from different paths we have been seeking through our different satisfactions, through our different aspirations. What are we seeking? It is that only. That only, the divine. Unless we find the divine and become an instrument of the divine and even become that only, till then our life is vain. It cannot get any kind of joy, any kind of satisfaction or ananda till we find the divine. That is why we see that even if we try to achieve something wholeheartedly and pursue it to our utmost ability with whatever resources possible, and even after achieving it, we are not satisfied. We jump up to something else, thinking that, oh, that was not for me. In fact, I'll have to do this, I'll have to do that. That will give me satisfaction. That will give me joy, which will sustain. But even reaching that, achieving that, it eludes again. So that's the way our life goes on. And we think that life is like that only. We have seen our life, we have been heard about life like that from our forefathers. Life cannot be different. The problems will be there. Illness will be there. Death, as it is there, you cannot escape it. But it is not so. If only we try to seek earnestly, even if it is very, very difficult, when the sincerity is there, the help is also there. In fact, the Divine Mother, I remember, not the exact wordings I'll quote, but just the gist of it. She says, when you sink into the neither of your life, you have no hope, you have no aspiration, you have lost everything, and you think that you are almost on the verge of extinction, on the brink of it. I am also sinking. and it is so true. Because she is there, even if we sin, she makes us rise again from the ashes. It might seem to be somewhat awkward, isn't it? But it is so true. Only when you come a little closer to her, the mother, then it will be very clear, because it's a matter of experience. It is not something which is a story told by someone that this happened. She used to say like that, and yes, it has happened to someone. It is for all. It happens to all. Only thing, we do not realize it. And when the proper time comes, that is when the push from inside becomes a little intense from the psyche, then the whole picture becomes a little different. Then everything falls into its own place. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You all are aware of how it works. Different pieces spread everywhere. Now, when you bring all together and piece by piece place it where it should be, then it becomes the whole object which you want to give shape to. So our life, although apparently it seems to be something, a riddle, it is not a riddle actually, but behind every single move, every single incident, every situation, even if it be a very trivial one, even that forms a part of the whole, the divine plan itself. And the moment we come a little closer to the divine afflatus, to the divine mother herself, she gives us the true understanding of things, true design, which she keeps hidden from our physical eyes. Everything cannot be seen through the physical eye. In fact, in 1956, when the supramental force was brought down together with the Aurobindo by the mother, as you know, in 1950 itself, Sri Aurobindo left his physical body. It was intentionally he did it because he had to fight with the adverse forces which stood on the path. And leaving his body, he had to go to the other than this physical world of which we are aware. There are other worlds also, so many of them. And he had to leave this physical world to go to the subtle physical. And from there he started working and helping and guiding the mother to continue the work of supramentalization. And though what I was trying to get at is, though it started in 1956 itself, people were not aware of it, not very much, except a very few who were close to Sri Aurobindo and Mother. The whole world was at dark, what was going on. Nobody knew what was going on because it is not to be seen with the physical eyes. And only when it materializes, that is what we are actually. We know matter only. We do not know about the spirit. Only because of the working of the spirit or the consciousness behind it, when it materializes in tangible shapes, then only we believe it to be true. That's why Sri Aurobindo in Savitri, uh, he has very beautifully said, has written, the other day also, I was discussing about it. The line exactly, it gets me somehow. Basically, it is that until the work is done, man will not know what has happened. Man will not notice till it's coming, and belief shall be not till the work is done. So you can understand very well how it is. Where do you stand? The recent happening, the great disaster, at least it seems to be a disaster for the whole world, this pandemic. We are so much concerned about it. And you know, it is nothing but, again, something which has allowed the whole humanity, or at least given an opportunity to change the way, to change the lifestyle. We're so much absorbed with our passions, with our satisfactions in our daily life. We have forgotten about our commitment we did to the divine before coming down to earth. And that's actually is a very true thing. We might not be aware of it, but the mother herself has told this, that, you know, my child, before coming down to earth, you commit to me that you will be doing this and this. That this and this is nothing but the collaborative part of the particular entity with the divine. But the moment one enters into the earth arena, earth atmosphere, she says, there is kind of a thud, you know, a bump. And with that, we forget everything, she says. The commitment, what we did, forget, and we slowly grow up again with our old, you know, groove, satisfying ourselves with this and that, pursuing this and that. All these are transient in nature. That is why everything fails us. It's a matter of time only before we realize finally that there is something for which we are here on earth. The reason of our existence here, and that is to find the divine and manifest the divine. So, probably I have talked a lot, but it's something which we need to introspect, we need to dwell upon if we have to be truly happy in life. And because we are in an evolutionary crisis, as it seems, it is for us to choose consciously to which way we will be moving. In 1967, the mother gave a message, New Year message. Men, countries, continents. The choice is imperative. Truth or the happiness. So it is truly imperative. It's a pointer actually. The mother pointedly gave this message to the humanity. And now we see the latest events of the world events, which way all these are leading to. Between countries, between China and America, between India and China, and so many of them. That is the bigger arena. And even down to our individual life also, we are struggling as it is. Without truly seeking the solution, as if we are satisfied with temporary things. Because we always move in our mind. And mind has its own limitations. Until and unless we go beyond our habituated mind, that is the most physical mind in which we live, the ordinary mind. We cannot do anything at all. We will be falling into the same traps, make mistakes, suffer, fall in, and embrace death. And we don't even know where we are heading to after death. We think after death, what does it mean? Death is death. We don't know anything about it. This is the only life we are leading. But that is not so. It is a continuous process, unceasing. We have been coming and going, births after births. Taking a name probably this birth, taking the name of John, next birth will be coming as different entity, X, Y, Z. So it's like old wine in a new bottle. We are the same as it is. We haven't changed. Sri Aurobindo says beautifully, scratch a little, the beast will come from within you, come from within. That is, we harbor all the adverse things in us without knowing even that these are there in our being. So there is only one way to choose truth or the habits. We cannot cling to the past only. It is not the intention of the divine to stay put wherever we were, sticking to those old rituals and all. We have to seek the truth and not only satisfied by it, we'll have to manifest the truth also. And for this, our Divine Mother is always there. She is the fount of love, you know. Whether one is inclined to tread the path of integrated yoga or not, it doesn't matter at all. Even if someone is a little bit open to the Divine Mother, whatever path he or she is, or whether he or she is not in the path, not in any spiritual path, doing something else, the force is always there, the love is always there, the guidance is always there. Just to come closer to her, seek her in her life, in our life. Because she is the miracle. We do not know what an age we live in. The Divine Mother coming down to us among us all. So even if we lead a life which is not in consonance with spirituality or a life divine, even the help is always there to change our lives for betterment. So it is with this aspiration, this hope, that let our life be a joyful one, a beautiful one. And that is possible only when we come closer to the Divine Mother. No matter which path one follows, it doesn't matter at all. So with this, I believe the time is up almost, and we should close the session today. And I'm sure all of us will be blessed by the Divine Mother, because as it is, her love is there for us, and only she's waiting with her extended hands to embrace us. So with this, I thank you very much, all of you, and I'm sure we'll be together again in quest of her love always. Thank you so much. Jai Ma. Jai Sri Aurobindo.
Thank you, Sri Indrajit Goswami, for your very lucid lecture. I'd just like to request Pradipto. Is there any query or any question from any participant?
Yes, sir. There are few questions.
Hello, Pradipto.
Hello, sir. Am I
Yes,
audible?
please.
Yeah, you can read out and
Yes. We have one question from uh, Professor Nirmali Burman, madam. Her question is, what is the purpose of spiritual or divine life?
She asked, what is the purpose?
Purpose of spiritual or divine life?
Okay. See, in fact, there is no difference between a common life which we lead and the spiritual life, in the sense that all are moving towards that direction only. In fact, spirit, because the spirit is there, it's a matter of time for the particular person before he or she slowly rises awakens to this quest, because the truth, that is the soul, the psychic, is always there in all of us, hidden deep within. So it's a matter of time before slowly it pushes, it nudges one to seek the truth. And that leads one to the spiritual, enter the spiritual path slowly and slowly. It is not devoid actually, no separate thing. So we all are moving towards that only. It is the manifestation of the spirit only, slowly and slowly in all of us. So that's a beautiful thing in us. So that is why we have hope.
Nirmali madam, I think your query is well answered by our speaker. Madam,
probably her audio is in mute condition, Pradipto. But yeah, very beautifully, Sri Indrajit Goswami has answered that. There is no difference between the ordinary life and the spiritual life and the divine life. Everything has to reach to that condition. That is the Aurobindo philosophy.
another.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello,
Next
madam.
question.
Yes,
Hello.
it's audible now.
Yeah. And I'm satisfied with your answer, sir. And thank you, sir, for your excellent speech. And actually, you have touched almost all the essence of his philosophy. And
Uh,
sir, I feel proud to be the follower of Sri Aurobindo and Divine Mother. So thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, but you don't have to thank me. In fact, we should be grateful to her, because
Yeah.
we are nothing in ourselves. And I believe it when I say so. We are nothing in ourselves, but
Yes, sir.
it is she who
Yeah.
gives all the joy that we seek in our lives. And it is so
Yeah.
true. Thank you so much.
Hello, Kudikuda.
Hmm.
Hello.
Yes, Riktadi, please.
Just I want to request you,
Hmm.
not to you but to Sir Indrajit Goswami to say something on a few lines on Satchidanand.
Sachidananda.
Yes.
Sir, please.
Uh, Now we discussed about Satchidananda. In fact, see, the Satchidananda is that triune poise of the divine, eternal divine, which is unmanifest in that sphere. That is why it is the transcendent sphere. It is called the transcendent sphere. So there it is unmanifest. The divine in its three poises, Sat, that is existence. Second one is Chit, that is consciousness. And mind you, along with consciousness, you will see a hyphen also there, connecting to force, that is consciousness force. And thirdly, it is bliss. So actually, it's a beautiful question, because in the sense that, say, for our existence, the whole universe exists, or let us talk about ourselves only, human beings. We exist, that is, our existence is there, because our source is there in the divine, that is, in Satchidananda's Sat. If there is no source at all, we do not exist in the first place. And likewise, secondly, if we are conscious here, we are aware of, we are growing to be aware of everything in our life, it is because there is something conscious in the divine also, in its topmost poise, which is Satchidananda, that is consciousness, second poise. And thirdly, we cannot be happy here, we cannot remain in Ananda if the source is not there in its true poise, in the Satchidananda, that is bliss. So I think it resonates well, because if the source is not there, we also cannot be here. That is, we cannot exist, we cannot be conscious, and we cannot be happy also, or in Ananda. So there must be the source, and this source is the triune poise of the divine, which is called Sat, Chit, and Ananda, together Satchidananda. And this Satchidananda is in its unmanifest state, that is transcendent. It doesn't manifest. And if it has to manifest, and it always does, it does through its creative medium, of which we were talking about, that is the supermind. Can you get it, please?
Oh,
Rekta-di?
yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I am very much happy by the grace of Mother and Sri Aurobindo, I have got this information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Another question is there, sir, from Professor Parthankar Chaudhary. I am reading out the question. A large number of present day population is having the progressive way of spending materialistic lifestyle. This being the situation, is it possible to orient them towards divinity, the supramentalization? That is the question from Professor Parthankar Chaudhary, one of our members from Excellence Club. Over to Indrajit.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Chaudhary. Actually, the thing is that, it depends actually. It is not that this segment of people who are in pursuit of material success, this also is a phase actually, and this phase has to exhaust itself in its own course of evolution. This segment also, I mean, for that matter, these people also, in their evolutionary journey, they are also slowly crawling. And it is not that they cannot be imbibed upon to take the path of spirituality, whatever it is. leave alone talking about supramentalization. It's a very, very distant dream, at least for those people. But the thing remains still that the divine being within them also, even they are at one point of time supposed to slowly open themselves up or slowly seek to have something which has to do with truth. So they are also on their path, but that might be a long way for them.
Parthankar sir.
And another thing, can I add just a moment, please? Actually, in fact, the supramental force, since it is in action on Earth's atmosphere, even without our understanding, the supermind is doing its work, whether we understand, whether we perceive it or not. And a time will come when each one of us will be able to perceive it very clearly. That is what Sri Aurobindo says. In fact, let me share another angle also, which we all are aware of. Now we watch in our television so many reality shows in which the children participate of tender age. They are of tender age, but I believe that it has not escaped your attention, that they have reached so much of excellence in whatever they are doing in different fields of activities, whether it be in sports, whether it be in singing, whether it is in different art forms, whatever they are doing. Now, what is the reason behind this? In fact, I remember whenever we used to see such exceptional child in our society, we used to call him or her a prodigy. Now we have stopped calling them prodigies because there are so many of them. Each one of them, in fact, you see in the educational field, students are coming up with marks which ranges in this category like 98%, 99%. And it is not far that within a couple of years' time, maybe they will be reaching that spot, 100 out of 100. So what does all this point out to, I remember the mother saying somewhere, probably in the agenda, mother's agenda, there's a series of volumes which which entails actually her cellular transformation process. It's called the mother's agenda. Probably there I read it long time back, that children born after 1967, I repeat, after 1967, they will be of different stuff altogether, because they will be breathing that supramental consciousness. And although, and even if they are not directly treading this path of supramental yoga, whatever field they engage themselves in, they will be excelling it in. Because that stuff, that element, which is all engulfing. The moment one comes into that consciousness, it is bound to have its own effect. It is inescapable. That is why you see now you probably get the point. And it will be more and more in the days to come, in the years to come. So it is almost I believe it's 64 years since the supramental force had been embedded, brought forth into the Earth atmosphere. So it is becoming very tangible nowadays. And not before too long, we'll be able to see so many of changes. And just a moment, I'll try to, yes, let me quote from the mother what she said. The mother said on 24th April 1956, the manifestation of the supramental upon earth is no more a promise, but a living fact, a reality. It is at work here. It is at work here. And one day will come when the most blind, the most unconscious, even the most unwilling shall be obliged to recognize it. You get the import of it probably. I'll repeat once more. See what it carries. The manifestation of the supramental upon earth is no more a promise, but a living fact, a reality. It is at work here. And one day will come when the most blind, the most unconscious, even the most unwilling shall be obliged to recognize it. That's what she said on 24th April 1956. So we now understand what is in the offing. Although apparently it would seem to be a chaos all over the world, it is nothing but the emerging out of a new world. I'd like to share another angle, in fact, an instance rather. Probably you have seen the Matrimandir, some of you have seen probably Matrimandir in Aurobindo, near Pondicherry. And probably you have seen the globe, the golden globe. The lower portion of the golden globe is somewhat submerged under. So it is basically a symbol. The symbol is a new world, the golden world. The truth world is emerging out of the old world. A new world is slowly emerging. If you haven't been there, I'm sure one day you might be having the opportunity of visiting Matrimandir. Then you can understand the symbolism of it. So that is what the world which is slowly coming up before us.
Thank you, sir, for your elaborate reply. We have comments and we have messages, different messages from our audience today. Sanchita Behera, Dr. Rajiv Das. Uh, then we have Professor Devashish Bhattacharya. Then Mrinmoy Das Purkhaisto, Sri Ajit Das. Then Dr. Abhijit Mitro, Roji Dam, Paritush Chandra Dotto, Navakumari Devi, Pratul Sinha, Dr. Anupam Das Talukdar, Suchishmita Das, and few more. So they have actually praised our today's session. And one last query from our one of our distinguished participant. The dualistic philosophy as explained in Shankha is it the same as you have said in the context of Purusha and Prakriti, or slight difference exists in approach?
Let me be very frank. This dualistic approach, I'm not very sure about these things. And in fact, I also think that at times there are differences, but in fact, since ours is a little bit in a different mode, so even though we can engage ourselves to know about it, to know in detail all these things, but the fact remains that since the light is shone so much for Sri Aurobindo and the mother herself, to be practical enough, of course, for the sake of study and all, intellectual study, these stuffs are quite good and to dwell upon it. But for me, I think it's better, since the light is already here, the light which can light up your whole life, to follow that obviously is the best choice for us.
Thank you, sir. Now over to Manavendra sir.
Yeah, thank you, Pudipto. I think I should conclude the session because it's already 9:20.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to thank Sri Indrajit Goswami for very nicely explaining Sri Aurobindo philosophy, especially the evolution, the yoga, and the moksha. I recall Sri Aurobindo said, if the life was hidden in the non-living things like matter, and the mind was hidden in life, then something else is hidden in the mind, which Sri Aurobindo called the supermind. That is the evolution. And in Aurobindo philosophy, we believe that that will happen one day. There is no other alternative. It's a must. Every mind will be converted to supermind. It may take little time, but every mind. That's why very nicely Sri Indrajit Goswami answered the query of Professor Parsan Chaudhary that the new art, the golden art, is emerging out of the old art. So I recall Mother once said that the supramentalization is a movement, and the movement will not stop till the last person in the universe is divinized.
Yes,
so
exactly.
we are in the process of movement. Yeah. So the last person will be divinized, and then this particular movement will be stopped. Everyone will be divinized. There is no doubt. Thank you, Sri Indrajit Prasad, for so lucidly delivering the basic aspects of Sri Aurobindo philosophy. At the beginning, Professor Patnankar Choudhury said, narrated the purpose of organizing this webinar. This is a very stressed situation. Everyone is stressed from different aspects in the COVID-19 pandemic situation. So our target was that if we organize this type of philosophical lecture, maybe this lecture will help in relieving the stress, and I'm sure the lecture of Sri Indrajit Goswami has helped the participant in relieving the stress, at least a little. I'm thankful to the participants. Initially, it was around 45 participants. Still now, we have 23 participants after 2 hours of this lecture, which started at 7:30. Now it's almost 9:30. So my sincere thanks to all the participants. And as Professor Parthanko Choudhury at the beginning explained that this is a series of philosophical lectures to be organized by the Excellence Club. Probably the next one will be on philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, and then we'll have a lecture, comparative philosophy of Gauriya Vaishnavism and Shankariya Vaishnavism. So we are trying to organize this type of lecture with an aim of stress relieving aspects in our mind. I'm sure that today's participants will be attending our other webinar also. Our sincere thanks once again to the Indrajit Goswami. Again, Dr. Nidhanti Bhattacharya participated here. He is the state president of the Aurobindo Society. I have seen Sri Manas Bhattacharya also participated in to all who participated in this webinar, and will expect in our next programs. They all will remain safe. Thank you very much. Thank you once again, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, Jai Sri
Jai
Aurobindo,
Sri
Sri Aurobindo.
Aurobindo.